Welcome back to the Restaurant Technology Guys podcast. I thank everyone out there for joining us. As we say each and every time, I appreciate your guys' time. I know there's lots of choices out on the internet on how to spend your time. So thank you guys for spending time with us. Today, I am joined by a gentleman that I've known for a while, but we haven't had a chance to jump on the air. I can't wait for him to share his story, but he's going to tell the story a lot better than I will. So, Will, why don't you introduce yourself? Where did Will Pemble come from?
Oh,
And then we can talk about what the latest project looks like. And we could probably have a whole episode, quite frankly, on who Will Pemble is first and foremost. But I think for our audience, it'd be great for them to hear a little bit of your backstory because I find it fascinating every time I hear it.
okay. I'll try to stick to the relevant. I'll try to stick to the relevant, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. First of all, I'm grateful for the chance. So here's the quickie version of business me. Once upon a time, I started a web hosting company in the basement of my house here in Connecticut, and it was called web.com. And it grew from one customer and one employee to being the 19th biggest web hosting company in the world. The day I sold that company, we had just like cajillions of customers, sold cajillions of domain names, invented a bunch of technologies that everybody who's ever touched a computer uses today. And so that was an amazing adventure. And like anybody, with the possible exceptions of Bezos and that sort of person, most of it was just straight up luck. But I was smart enough to know how lucky I was. Sold that company in 2007, got into mostly management consulting, which is where you and I met along the way, and wrote a book about that, did some business, spent 15 years doing business. And then a couple of years ago, before we hit the record button, I was telling Jeremy a couple of years ago, I retired from consulting and went back to my roots, went back to my web hosting automation, my software writing, my like being alone in a room with just computers and software that couldn't argue with me. And I built a thing that is now called PageLeap. And that's what I thought might be interesting to you and your gang, what with all the restaurants you do business with.
And again, when I heard about this latest venture earlier this year, I was like, yeah, what Will can educate listeners to because of the 20 years in understanding how the web works is going to be really critical. So talk me through what is PageLeap and what is it that you guys are trying to solve for? And really, where does the problem come from? Because I think it's something that most people don't comprehend. Even my own kids and my wife who sit and listen to me on the other side of this door where I'm recording from, they're like, the Wi-Fi is not working. And I'm like, is it the Wi-Fi or is it the website? And they don't comprehend how it all works. And so if you could lay out the framework as to where you guys are really solving problems, because I think people underestimate the architecture and the legwork that goes into a lot of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and it's a lot, right? The Wi-Fi doesn't work. Is it the Wi-Fi or is it the internet? I can't get out. Is it the gateway? Is it the right? There are so many moving parts to things that we just absolutely take for granted all day, every day. Millions and millions of moving parts. I'll give you another quick story. During my consulting days, I worked with a guy named Steve, and Steve was like a hardcore search optimization guy and SEO, like a real deal SEO fella. And he worked for companies like IHOP, Applebee's, Skechers, Disney, Martha Stewart, Outback Steakhouse, Meineke Mufflers, big brands. And so Steve was the real deal. And I did some consulting with Steve for quite a while, and I would spend a lot of time in meetings, on calls with clients and vendors and web hosting providers and all sorts of stuff. And Steve's job was to set SEO strategy. And the idea of SEO strategy is really simple if you're a restaurant. Somebody searches chicken sandwich near me, and your chicken sandwich restaurant comes up in the first, second, or third space on Google. Dead simple. Whatever it is near me, my store is number one, number two, number three. That's all we want.
Yep, and Wiedemann was on the show, by the way,
Oh,
probably
okay.
in 2022. So for those that maybe are longtime listeners, they probably remember Steve Wiedemann. He talked about a lot of these things and how to optimize SEO. So I'll let you keep going, but just
Yeah.
for any of those people that have been listening for a couple of years, they may remember Steve's name and talking about some of these brands and how the chicken sandwich was an example. It might have even been an example that he brought up. I don't remember exactly,
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, Steve was on the call.
yeah, Steve's the guy. You Google pancakes near me, you're going to get an IHOP result. And the reason you're going to get an IHOP result is Steve Wiedemann. That is just a science fact. He is incredible at what he does. And so I spent a fair bit of time in meetings, on calls with Steve. And what I found a whole lot of the time was that Steve would get on a call with some provider, a hosting provider, a designer, a landing page company, or something like that. And he would say, could you just please do it the way I've specified it here? Could you just draw the page the way we'd like it to bring? Could you update this piece of information? Could you add schema? What schema? Doesn't matter. It's a thing that needs to be done. And And the response he would always get back from these companies was, "Oh, I'm sorry, we'd like to, but that'll be you're out of development hours," or, "Wow, that's a really good feature request. We're gonna submit that as a feature request, and then the next version is the blah, 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 blah." So, like, all this time, and then Steve would go, the sweetest man in the world, just like
Mhm.
he's not Anthony Presley sweet, but he's pretty sweet. And so Steve would get off the phone, and I'd be like, "Oh, man, how cool would it be if they would just do what you say?" And he's, "Oh my god, you have no idea how cool it would be." I'm like, "Maybe I think it would, but" and then we do another one, and then we do another one, and this would just over and over again. And then one day I was like, "Steve, I know some things about hosting and data centers and computers and such. Can I just maybe build you one of these? Because like we could spin up a platform that would do exactly what you want." And Steve's initial response was like, "Oh, that's really sweet. I appreciate that, but I'm not a software guy. We're not a software developer. We're certainly not a hosting company. We don't want to do any of those things. But boy, that sure would be cool." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I was just a consultant, whatever. And then a little while later, another one of these calls. And I was like, "Are you sure? Could I just maybe?" And he was like, "No." And then, but I couldn't get it out of my head now because it's just, it's embarrassing to watch. It's like, it's what I imagine like a NASCAR driver would feel like at a go-kart track. He'd just watch other people out there and be like, "Oh, Lordy." I recently learned that like a NASCAR driver, if the average time or the kid who works at the go-kart track, if he can get around that track in 45 seconds, the NASCAR guy can do it in 30. It's
Mhm.
astounding
Yep.
how talent and experience really counts. So so I couldn't let it go. And so I went home one day and just spooled up an Amazon Web Services account, and I put up a Lambda instance, just did some things, cobbled together this monkey version page because I had HTML and CSS. I had a whole thing designed, and I just spun one up and I put it into a system that I had an idea would work, and where a customer's page a restaurant landing page was coming down off the internet in 4.6 seconds, which if you think in TikTok years, that's
That's ages.
it's forever. People have children who didn't even meet before that page started to load, right? And so that I managed just in a weekend of goofing around, just amusing myself, I managed to take that 4.6-second page and render it in 0.86 seconds. So what's that? A 400% increase. And granted, that was just one page and it was a very favorable environment for me. And what I hadn't figured out how to scale it or anything like that. But I could get the page with all of the stuff that Steve wanted in it, right? He wanted the schema, he wanted this, he wanted all sorts of information in the page. And so I built it exactly the way I had been watching Steve ask for it for a year. And that's core to our product is perfect execution of the marketing team's vision or the search engine guy's vision or Olo's vision or whatever. So then I brought it back to Steve. I was like, "Hey man, I know you told me you didn't really want to do this, but I was just like fiddling around with it. Here,
Mhm.
look." He was like,
Yep.
"Wow, that's really cool. That's really fast." I'm like, "You want to just do this for all of them?" It's like I mean, it would be hard, but it's not impossible. Look. He said, "No, we're not really a software company, not really a development company. We don't really want to do that." And they've got this deal with those. And I'm like, and now I'm like, "Dude, you're killing me," right? Because my whole life came true because I was really good at web hosting, right? I made a
Mhm.
lot of money because I was really good at web hosting. And weirdly, after walking away from it for a decade or so, I realized that I'm incredibly passionate about it. It is super fun. So Steve doesn't want it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. Would it be okay with you, Steven? Because like you've helped me, you got me uncomfortable to the point where I had to, you made me have to scratch this itch. I'm gonna go ahead and build a company. Do you wanna be any partners? "Oh, we're not a software company. We're not a development company." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Can you go ahead and sign this document?" It's
Yeah, and send people my way because they're not listening to you, but maybe they'll listen to me. And I'd love to have you talk through with our listeners because the difference between 4.8 seconds and 0.8 seconds,
Yeah,
either on your platform, which was your analogy, and or what Steve was trying to do,
yeah,
is marked difference in what marketers will call conversion to restaurant brands.
you bet.
It's a very significant metric that when I click on a website, we all have the memories and the attention span of a Labrador retriever. We don't like actually pay attention to any one thing for more than a second and a half. And when something's taking 5 and 10 seconds, I got to be really passionate about getting to that brand in order to convert to a patron or to a customer. Whereas the faster you can speed that up, the more conversion you get. Is that what Steve was selling ultimately on the SEO side and what you guys are doing to help people with?
It's a super important. So page speed, which is the industry term of it, page speed is one of many uh, technical attributes that a landing page needs to have. And we'll go ahead and we'll use chicken sandwich because one of our very first customer, weirdly, the very first PageLeap customer is a chicken restaurant chain, fast growing chicken restaurant franchise. And it's Dave's Hot Chicken. It's no secret. And I joke around about that because like they took a chance on, they took a chance on me that I'll never be able to repay that kindness. But if you've got your chicken restaurant or whatever the restaurant is, and somebody clicks on a search result, the time it takes that page to load, if you can shave 1 second off the time it takes that page to load, you can increase your conversions by up to 17. That's a Google statistic. That's not a made up thing. That's an actual, it's on our website. It's a cited thing. So if you can save up to 17% by shaving a second, so you go from 4 seconds to 3 seconds, and you can increase your conversions by 17%. If you go by up to 17, if you go from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, you can have another 17% off that conversion rate. If you go from 2 seconds, 3 seconds to 2 seconds, you can have another. So it's a massive thing. And we joked around a little bit about TikTok. You have 2 seconds to tell your whole story on TikTok,
Mhm.
or the user's going to scroll. And that's the attention span we're dealing with. That's the customer we're dealing with. Um, so speed, page speed is a hugely important thing. It's one of probably 24 hugely important things. And if you can't get that one, it's one of the first things that Google is going to look at it, that in Google speak, it's referred to as core web vitals. So
Mhm.
your core web vitals, you need to pass all the core web vitals. And that's the first thing Google thinks about and looks at when they're deciding to show your page in the search results or not. And then there's a bunch of other things, right? You still have to have great content. Still have to you got to be sticky. You got to make sure that people don't bounce back to Google. Because if you click on a result and you go to Google and you bounce and you go back, then Google says, well, that wasn't very helpful to the user. I'm not going to show that again. And so
Mhm. Get penalized for that.
you
Yep.
get penalized for that, right? And so it's much just like our moms told us, right? You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Um,
In that, I think there's so much to that. And I think people underestimate one, that those microseconds that are part of that. And you talk about the hosting company being a critical part of that. You talk about the page design being a critical part of that. What are some of those other key components that when you guys go into an engagement and talk to somebody that they just they're to share this, their ignorance about what actually causes the conversion to happen? Because most marketers, especially restaurant marketers, are not thinking that way. They're thinking about a creative way to display the chicken sandwich on the web. They're thinking about a creative way to get you in the door by placing offers on your loyalty and whatnot. They're not necessarily thinking about a lot of the things. So, talk me through some of these other components that people just in your guys' engagements with restaurants, they just don't even consider it because they go to the cheapest web hosting platform. They go to the cheapest and they just don't get it
yeah. Okay.
without sharing the secret sauce.
No, that's like the cool part about it is like the secret sauce. I'll anybody's, hey, how'd you build PageLeap? I was like, oh, I'll tell you exactly how to do it. First, get a time machine. Go back to 1999, right? Spend 30 years in my shoes and you'll be able to bang this out easy peasy. Or if you want, you can just come and be at my house. We don't have any secrets, right? We do this stuff by taking nothing for granted. We do this stuff by like ridiculous attention to detail and crazy obsessive execution. But none of that is really easily duplicatable. If I could just be happy and live a happy life, I'd probably do that instead. So let's break it up. Let's break a landing page. So I click chicken sandwich near me. I see a result in Google. I click Google. I click that result and then I get to that page. When I get to that page has to have a number of things on the page, things that you see in front of you, and it has to have a number of things in the page. And so on the page, we'll start with the like the very obvious stuff, right? So it needs to be beautiful and easily laid out, right? All of the design rules have to be followed. What in the business we call NAP, name, address, phone. So the name and the address and the phone have to be shown on the page. There has to be engaging, high quality content. We need beautiful hero shot of the outside of the restaurant. And it's got to be clean and beautiful and super inviting. And that needs to be big and it needs to come up super duper fast. We need video if we want to put video up there. And that video also needs to be super optimized. So it needs to be, again, super engaging, super visual, bright colors is really good without being garish, right? We need a Google map. We need a picture of a map and a little dot. If you can put a standard pin, that's great. If you can put a standard pin in the form of the logo, that's even better. So you want customer reviews. So 1,500 people have been to this restaurant. It's got 4.8 stars. That's pretty good. We want a clear call to action. Order now, get directions, right? We want big buttons. We're like at the very bottom of the funnel here. We want that order now button. That's the main thing. A contact form if somebody wants to get in touch with us. We want links to our social media. We want a frequently asked questions section. We want links to blog articles. We want if we're partnering with some big organization, we want those brag logos there to give more authority, more experience. We want our super unique selling proposition, right? For Dave, it's like the best Nashville hot chicken or whatever our super cool pitch is. Hottest hot chicken, whatever our pitch. And then if we're serving diverse communities, we want multi-language support, right? And so if our restaurant's in Chinatown, there better be a button I can click to see this whole thing in Chinese. And so those are all things that we want to see on the page. And then and that's what I call SEO philosophy, right? The SEO strategist, Steve Wiedemann, will tell you, these are the things that we need to see on the page. And he'll work
Uh-huh.
with a designer and make sure that the layout is good and we'll understand about user experience, user interface. And then there's technical SEO. And technical SEO, you can think of as things that are in the page. These are in the code of the page, but you don't see them, right? If you know what to look for, you'll know they're there, but it's stuff that's underneath the surface. A title tag that has the keyword, right? Hot chicken or chicken sandwich or whatever it is that we're talking about. A meta description, which is different than a title tag, an H1 tag, which is the main headline for the page. Only one H1 tag, please. We want local business. Since we're talking about restaurants, we want like local business schema markup. And schema markup is just another way of providing the content for the page, but it's just in the code and it's what Google is going to read. It's what page readers are going to read for accessibility. We want to make sure that we're using all the local keywords, right? Chicken sandwich, Fairfax Avenue. That might be a term that we use for the Dave's Hot Chicken location on Fairfax Avenue in Los Angeles. That's the first Dave's Hot Chicken, the first Dave's Hot Chicken brick and mortar,
Interesting. I
right?
had no idea. I've
Yeah,
been to
right.
that store. Ironically, I just had no idea that was
That's the first one.
I was in the parking lot of a Dave's today. Ironically, I didn't have Dave's. I ate at a different restaurant that was across the parking lot, and I
Yep.
drove by 2 different hot chicken places to get to Dave's, and I almost went there, and
Yeah.
the line was too big.
Yeah.
So, which,
Dave,
maybe is a POS problem, not an SEO problem.
yeah. But fun fact, all the murals in all the Dave's Hot Chickens, they're all original, they're all hand done, they're all unique. And so it's like,
Oh, very
yeah,
cool.
so every Dave's Hot Chicken restaurant is a work of art. It's really cool business. Those guys they're crazy, right? They're just crazy chef people, right? They're like food people. So it's a really cool thing. We want a nice user-friendly URL, right? And so like our Dave's Hot Chicken, I think it's restaurants.daveshotchicken.com/CA for California /Los Angeles for Los Angeles // and then the name of the page would be like hot chicken sandwich Fairfax Avenue. So we want our URL to be descriptive because Google looks at that and it draws context from that. And so you can't just have post 3299734.html. You got to, all of it matters. And then we want to make sure that the thing is mobile optimized. Guys like me, once upon a time, there weren't mobile phones. Swear to God,
Yes.
kids, there was a time when there weren't mobile phones. And so we used to design for desktop and then we would make it responsive so that if somebody happened to look at it on a mobile phone. And so it was desktop first. Now you have to do mobile first and then make it responsive in case there's some little guy like me who wants to look at it on a computer. But even I'm like mostly on my phone anymore. So it has to be like super, super optimized for mobile. The whole experience has to be beautiful, scrollable, fast. And that's the next one, fast page speed, right? You just like page speed really matters because TikTok, that's
Yep.
why. Accessibility. The best accessibility example I can give you is an alt tag for an image. There's alt text for an image, which is meant to describe the image on a page. And most people just type in whatever they need to type in because Yoast will ask for it or PageLeap will ask for it. And they'll type in like Dave's Hot Chicken or whatever. What alt text really should be is an actual description of the image that's on the page, right? Exterior shot of a Dave's Hot Chicken restaurant on Fairfax Avenue, brightly lit, beautiful at night with a just so if somebody who couldn't see pulled up that page, their braille reader or talker or whatever it was, it would draw that picture for them using words. And so that's what alt text is. That's what real accessibility looks like. Contrast, right? If you have a yellow button with white text on it, you're going to get dinged for accessibility because it's just it's so hard to
Yeah.
read. Text is too small, that's not good, too big, not good. So accessibility across the boards. Security, you need real SSL. You don't settle for the cheap one, right? Buy it nice or buy it twice, the guy says. Links to your privacy policy and your terms of service from the landing page. All of that stuff matters. Google's like, no privacy policy. We can't trust these people. We don't know who they are or what they stand for. And then tracking and analytics so that you can measure all of the things, right? So that is the very fastest way I can describe to you the very smallest number of things that absolutely have to be done perfectly on a landing page. And it's a lot of things, right?
Yeah. But I'm sure in your dealings with other businesses, people are batting 500, people are batting 250 and missing large percentage of these,
Yeah.
which ultimately, as you talk about going from 4 seconds to half a second or whatever, drives real business value from getting people to your brand. And if there's a marketing guy that talks about it, when you confuse, you lose. Donald Miller talk, and again, you've got this TikTok generation that wants Dave's Hot Chicken. They want to figure out how to get to the fastest one, the closest one. And if they get to the page and Popeye stuff shows up first and they click on Popeyes, they may lose that customer. And I'm not trying to pit Dave's Hot Chicken against
Yeah.
Popeyes, but they both sell chicken sandwiches. And
Yeah.
if the patron doesn't care, they may lose that sale.
You absolutely. You're 100% right. And and what I just described to you, the spiel, it's like all of these things need to be on the page. All of these things need to be in the page. That is the phone call. That is the conversation that not just Steve, but every SEO strategist in the world is having with the web designer or the web hosting company or the client who has their own in-house everything. He said, look, I just need you to do these simple 25 things. And then he yammers like I just yammered. And by thing number 2, everybody has placed their thoughts elsewhere. Nobody has time for this shit. Nobody wants to do it. Almost nobody understands what it is. And we're going to forget. And this was the core thing for me. And I watched Steve explain all of that stuff over and over again. And I was like, bro, just let me build it. Because for the Dave's landing pages, and this isn't a Dave's commercial, it's just the story I'm telling. For the landing page, for the landing page platform that we built, of those 25 things, 2 of them are built in. And nobody at Dave's ever has to think about the landing pages. Our system actually pulls the information from other systems that they use. I won't share with you what the other systems are, but there's other systems that they use in the business, and they put information in here and they put information in there. And then our system just plucks those name, address, phone, all of that information, the location data that we need. We just pull it out of systems that they're already using. We leverage work that their people are already doing, right? Shristi types in the name, address, phone into whatever it is she types it into, and our system just pulls it from there. So she doesn't have to do it twice. And so what we did, and again, I just did it out of anger.
You were tired
I was,
of Steve giving the 25 items
God,
and saying, you know what, there's got to be software that can automate this and make it so much
yeah.
quicker.
And there wasn't. And I'm like, okay, there should be. And so I just sat the hell down and did it. I couldn't take it anymore. And I was mostly doing it. And this is a little more than a year ago now. I was doing it just to exercise these demons, right? I never intended it for be like, oh, this is a great product idea. That wasn't it. I just had to prove myself right. And then I built the thing. And then I accidentally showed it to the guys at Dave's one time. And the CMO's, his question was like, I've got 2 questions. And I did this terrible demo. He's like, when will it be done? And what will it cost? I'm like, damn.
Yeah, you're like, maybe I built something.
Wow. And then we measured it, and it's the fastest landing pages on the internet. And my partner, Chris, I was like, dude, these are really fast. He was like, let me check. And then he goes and he checks it against the top 250,000 websites and he just wrote a thing and they're like for 2 days, he's just like running Lighthouse scores against everything. And so it became a product, it became a platform because, and it's a goofy story perhaps, it became a platform and we turned it into a whole business because it wasn't built to satisfy a VC. It wasn't built to make me a bunch of money. It wasn't built for any of those things. It was built to solve the one single problem, which is that almost zero marketing, almost zero SEO, almost zero strategy ever finds its way onto the internet the way the creator intended. And so PageLeap is perfect execution of your marketing strategy. Full stop.
Well, and I think that's a fantastic description. I really love that you went there. So, who is the ideal customer for you guys and how do they engage? What does it look like? You've talked about Dave's Hot Chicken. If I'm a 20 unit brand and I want to be able to help do this, what does the engagement look like? Who is that customer? How do they ultimately get the benefit of what it is that you guys are doing? Because I hope and pray that at some point 10 years from now, this product will be so ubiquitous that everybody is using your product or a competitor to it that directly does exactly what you guys are doing. Because to your point, the sitting and maybe it won't put Steve out of business, but ultimately at the end of the day, if you can build software to do these things, Steve can be repurposed for even more creative things to help drive even better business value beyond that. So if I'm a restaurateur and I'm sitting here listening to this, what does engagement look like? How do they get in touch? What should they do?
If you're a restaurateur and you want to have a conversation about this platform, pageleap.com is a great place to start, right? You can reach out to me. We're never going to put the SEO guys out of business. We're never going to put the Steve Wiedemans out of business. And I'll tell you, this is like one of the secrets. I started, you remember Goal Boss, that was my book and my consulting firm, and we wrote some software for that and all of that. I started the entire Goal Boss business, the entire management consulting business, and I made millions of dollars doing that business. I started Goal Boss because I hate business meetings. And the core product of Goal Boss is called a Goal Boss meeting, and it is a facilitated business meeting. And it's just, I hate business meetings so much. I designed a way to do them that was engaging and efficient and more fun and required like 50% as much business meetings. And in a lot of ways, PageLeap exists because I hate SEO too. It's really
That's so
confusing
funny.
and it's whack-a-mole and it's hard to, and so I don't want to do Steve's job. I don't want to do Brian is another awesome SEO firm that we're working with. I don't want to do the SEO strategy. I don't want to do the keyword research. I don't want to look at the spreadsheets that these guys have to slog through and all of that. I just, at the end of the day, I want to execute their strategy the way they envisioned it so that their customer will get what they came for. So if you're a restaurateur, here was your question. If you're a restaurateur, let's say you're in the pancake business, right? If you're in the pancake business and somebody types pancakes near me, you're a little bit screwed because they are spending, I won't tell you how much money on a guy like Steve, the nice folks at IHOP. And God bless IHOP. They do great marketing and the great all of this. But if I'm in Brookfield, Connecticut, I'm going to the Blue Colony Diner for pancakes because I know they're just better.
Mhm.
But Blue Colony Diner isn't gonna win against IHOP in search. So one of the things I want PageLeap to do is I want PageLeap to level the playing field. I want the best pancakes to win search. And the only way to do that is to be able to execute perfect SEO for like little guys. And so PageLeap allows you to do that. And so if you want enterprise grade SEO and you've got 6 locations, you should get in touch with us because we can give you enterprise grade SEO for your 6 locations. And if you've got 6,000 locations, we can scale it all the way up to that, right? Somebody asked me, I don't know, you could end up with a lot of pages, a lot of things. And it's my last day at web.com. We had about 1.5 million websites with an average of 22 pages each. And whatever 1.5 million times 22 is, if it's as long as it's fewer pages than that, we're good. So scale is, I'm fine with all of that. And we can do a really nice job. But that's what PageLeap is built for. It's built to, and then there's also directory listings and reviews and all the Google My Business stuff as well. But that's what we want to do. We want anybody who's got a business, whatever it is near me, pancakes near me, chicken sandwich near me, Indian food near me, whatever it is. We want to get those, we want them to win. My son went to culinary school and we're food people. And
Mhm.
I know how hard restaurant people work. It is unfair how hard they work for the love and the kindness and the passion and the work that they put into their day to day. And the idea that they could miss a customer because somebody didn't tell them about schema, that's messed up, right?
And your son, if he went and opened up a restaurant, I promise you, he's not thinking about schema, and he's hiring a web hosting company or somebody
Yeah.
to build his website that may or may not have even any clue about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because you know what? They don't. Oftentimes, they don't even teach you this till you get to the next level and the level beyond that.
Yeah. At the end of his 16-hour day
Hmm.
of running the restaurant, he's got what? Maybe 2.5 hours before he passes out, where he's
Yep.
got to do all the business things. And this one, like, you know, SEO, digital marketing, all of that stuff, it's so complicated. It's so deep. It's so hard. And it's so important. And sorry, customers, but like the effing IHOPs of the world, they're the only ones with 6, 7 figures to spend on marketing.
Yep.
And so,
And if you're not there with them and using tools like what you guys have put together, you ultimately lose out that customer and that consumer at that time. So
yeah, you can't win against them. So we want to level that. So PageLeap is super, super scalable, right? We can scale it up to whatever, but it's also very thin sliceable. We can just like, what's the joke? Would you do anything for $1 million? Sure. Great. Can I have $100 worth? And so we can slice it down to where Blue Colony Diner can run with the big dogs. And that's a really wonderful thing. So we solved Steve's problem of having to beg some hosting company to do it right. We solved the SEO, we solved Steve's problem of getting it done and getting it done. We solved the little guy's problem of being able to do it at very low numbers. And of course, we can still solve the big guy's problem of we need to deploy 5,000 locations in 9 days.
that's amazing. These are some of my favorite episodes where we've got entrepreneurs that have scratched a niche that they saw in the marketplace, not because they're looking for this big payday to go make millions of dollars, but because they see a real problem. They know they have been gifted with the skills to be able to solve those problems and they go out and do it. So thank you for doing that. To our listeners, guys, we know, as I said on the onset, you guys have got lots of choices. Thank you guys for spending some time with us. Thank you for sharing your expertise. Thank you for creating another fantastic product that's going to change the landscape of restaurants. And to our listeners, make it a great day.